Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. At Million Marker, we're huge proponents of preventative healthcare, especially through proper nutrition. There's an old saying that we believe holds a lot of merit in today's world: let thy food be thy medicine. Today's guest is always sharing amazing tips on superfoods and creating content that helps us better understand nutrition, preventative healthcare, and treating root cause problems rather than symptoms. We're going to chat with Muneeza Ahmed, the intuitive medicine woman. Muneeza has helped over 10,000 clients over 85 countries to support their health through intuition and nutrition. We're going to discuss importance of food in healing, how to create a balanced meal for health, and using food-based ingredients for everyday purposes, such as hair and nail care. So I'm gonna send her a message letting her know that we're live. Oh, so hello, hi, Muneeza.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you, Jen?
Good. How are you?
Doing really well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
No, I'm so glad this is finally happening. I know I'm trying to schedule this for a while.
For a while, I know. I was last time, I actually was taken under the weather, so I'm glad we could reschedule. Thank you for understanding.
No, love this, because I love this topic holds very dearly to our hearts. So I'm so glad you're able to come up and then share your experience and your knowledge.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, happy to talk about it. It's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, like how you became the intuitive medicine woman.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've been sick my full life. I struggled as a young teenager and as a young 20-year-old woman to get better from my symptoms. And I ended up, I worked in corporate for a long time. I was with KPMG. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I worked for NBC and GE for some time. So I had a 13-year career in finance. And at the heels of which, I started to get really sick and I had a breakdown. And then I had to quit my job because I couldn't work. And that I've always had an interest in health because I actually wanted to become a doctor at one point, and life didn't take me in that direction. So I have always maintained my interest in food and medicine and healing. So when I got sick, I started to research more holistic protocols. A friend of mine who was my neighbor gave me the brochure for IIN, which is the school that I went to. And she said, you might really love this given what you are drawn to. So I started to heal my body with food. And then I ended up going to nutrition school. I had some great results with the food choices I made back in 2006. I happened to come across a book that was all about removing inflammation by removing like gluten and dairy and soy and corn and all kinds of animal products. So I became plant-based. And Jenna, it was 2 weeks within which I stopped needing the 8 drugs that I had been on for years. I just felt this dramatic shift in my body. And I was convinced that if everybody in the world needs to know about the power of food.
Mm.
So then I went to school and I trained and learned about all these dietary modalities. I became a herbalist. I trained in raw food. I have a raw food nutrition certification. So I did all of these trainings to, educate myself so I could help others. And I became the intuitive medicine woman because the idea of serving people and taking care of the sick has always been in my mind and in my blood. When I was a child, my favorite story was of Florence Nightingale, where she was up at night taking care of the sick soldiers. And I used to feel like, oh my gosh, I so want to do that. I so want to take care of the sick, not the little sick, but the really sick people, right? And give them something that I know that can help them feel better. And so even though I'm not at people's bedsides in real life, but I feel like I'm in their lives, helping them and using natural tools like foods and supplements and lifestyle choices and things of that nature that can help people learn, hey, I actually felt like that food or something that I did made a huge difference to my life and to my health and how I'm feeling. And it's a calling. So it's been my mission. And so intuitive medicine woman came from knowing that I had medical intuition, or I have medical intuition. And it came from medicine is what we do use to heal the body. And the quote that actually has inspired me more than any other quote in health has been, let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. So I know the first part everybody resonates with, which is let food be thy medicine, which is eat food that is helpful to you, to support your body, to heal your body. But the part that gets missed the most is the other part. And let medicine be thy food, which actually means that all of the medicinal herbs and plants and tools that God put on the earth are medicine that should be included in our everyday food. So yeah, I am a great believer in using food and the power of food, because food is pivotal. We eat it 3 times a day or more or less, but it is what sustains us, and it is what builds our cells from the ground up.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. I love everything you just said. You touched a little bit upon like intuitive medicine. So what does intuitive medicine mean to you?
That's a really good question. What does intuitive medicine mean to me? I believe just as you're born with eyes, ears, nose, mouth, touch, the ability to touch, you are also born with intuitive gifts, as in every single human is born with intuitive gifts. And we are disconnected from these gifts because nobody really sits us down and teaches us that these are gifts that we need to pay attention to or develop or grow or practice or trust. And my gift is with medical intuition. And so when I'm connecting in with someone, when I'm speaking to someone, I start to get a sense of what they're feeling emotionally, what they might be feeling physically, what's going on in the body, being able to see whether there are pathogens in their body, whether there are other kinds of poisons sitting in the different organs of the body. So over time, the gift has honed and developed and become more discerning. But even when I was a child, I used to be able to feel what other people are feeling. I used to be able to tell when someone was lying. I used to be able to tell when someone was sad and they wouldn't say it. I used to be able to tell when someone was not really being able to open up and be fully truthful. And I couldn't understand why or how people acted or why people acted the way they did, but I knew in my heart that I knew something more than most people knew. I just didn't have language for it. I didn't have words for it. But as I, developed in life, and I have other intuitive gifts other than medical intuition. I have the gift of premonition, which is that you can ask my family and they will be like, Mom, how do you always kind of know what's going to happen? Or it's funny. It's not all the time with everything, but it does happen enough for people to be like, oh, maybe she's right. But it's a lot of growth, has been a lot of growth for me in developing the intuition, in trusting it. And I believe that because all of us, for example, if we were blindfolded from birth and then at 12 years old, somebody opened our blindfold and we could see for the first time, would we trust what we're seeing? We'd probably be like, what is this? Or, this camera in front of me, or what is this, desk, or what is that? It looks this color and I don't know the name for the color, or I don't know, so I think the same way in our intuitive gifts that are not tangible, because sight is more tangible, hearing is more tangible. We have intangible gifts, whether it's telepathy, intuition, knowing, medical intuition, premonition. There's all kinds of intuitive gifts, even the gift of being able to, I teach this in my practitioner programs, and I say, well, when you have a sense of fill in the blank, a sense of direction, a sense of time, a sense of a feeling that someone's watching you. And we did this experiment. I asked people to go in the class and check this out, go to a park, go somewhere in public, and just stand like a fair distance away from someone and look at the back of their head. Just stare right at it and tell me how long it takes before they turn out and look at you. So it kind of proves that we all have a knowing. We all have a sense of being watched, right? What is common sense? It's also an intuitive gift. What about a sense of humor? It's an intuitive gift. That comic timing, not everybody gets it, right? How many times have you thought of a joke after the fact? You're like, oh, if I'd said that, that would have been really funny. The comics, or people who have a really good sense of humor, and they're witty and their timing is so on point, right? And they're like, they can get it right in the moment and make everybody laugh. So, there's all these different types of gifts and intuitions, and I'm only stating a few of them. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of ways that we have intuition. And if every single human today believed that and trusted their intuition, we would look like a completely different society. So I believe that when you eat clean and there's fewer poisons in your body, and there's fewer toxic heavy metals in the brain, and your liver and your organs from the inside are cleaner, your blood is cleaner, your fluids, your lymph fluids are cleaner, your brain is cleaner, your intuition just naturally sharpens, because that's how you're created. You're created to have this incredible intuition. So that's where an intuitive medicine woman comes from.
I love this. And I also especially really love when you're saying that intuition, it needs to be not just trusting your intuition, but you also have to keep developing your intuition.
Yeah.
I really love this part, because I think oftentimes people don't think about it. Well, not only they don't trust the intuition, but they also don't actively developing more.
Yeah.
Which then could help really with their everybody's daily life, just routines, or just even making decisions.
Yeah, exactly. It is actually, intuition is used for decision making. And I also always say that we believe today in society, there's so much focus on science and data and observation and analytics and logic. And I still maintain that all of those, while really important, are still a servant of intuition. They are not the master. Because if you rely on numbers and data and observations solely without using your intuition, you will likely be misled. And I also know that whatever scientific discoveries have ever happened, or even take Albert Einstein, for example, he always said intuition is more important than knowledge. And imagination is more important than knowledge, because imagination and intuition are connected. And it is the ability of our mind to image and visualize things, which is what imagination is. And intuition, I mean, I've spoken with people who are really well-versed in scientific fields, and I'll say to them, I said, don't you end up making intuitive decisions about what you observe? And they're like, 100%. Like, even I worked in finance for so long, and I've read Ray Dalio's biography and his stories, and all these super, super rich people who could predict the markets and could understand the markets and numbers in that way. But they never just followed the number. They looked at all the data and then made a decision from their intuition. He actually talks about this. It's like, you just know certain things. And the numbers don't always support that. So I think it's very important to consider both, and that there's great value in intuition. And I think that all of the poisons that exist on Earth today, whether it's fluoride in our water or GMO foods in our food supply or apial coating on our organic produce um, um, or metals dropping out of the sky, all of those things interfere with our ability to enhance our intuition because they affect the brain.
Absolutely. Now going back to the food, because we have talked about, food should be medicine, not just let medicine be the food. But what role does food play in supporting our preventative healthcare?
Oh my gosh. How about it's 100% the role, right? In preventative healthcare, because a lot of what I do is preventative, right? I work with people who are really sick. So I work with the chronically sick. I help women 18 to 80 years old recover from chronic and autoimmune symptoms using food, intuition, and supplementation and lifestyle choices. So a lot of what we do, while there's symptom recovery involved in a lot of what we do, there's also a lot of prevention that happens. So when you eat right, so here's what I think people don't understand. People think of health as, well, I have a thyroid problem, so let me focus on my thyroid. Or I have lupus, so I have pain and I have these rashes, so let me just focus on what that disease is. Or I have brain fog and I have tingling and numbness, and so let me focus on neurological stuff. While that's important to know, overall, there's a baseline overall that most people just don't understand, which is that if your blood is polluted, and a lot of our blood is polluted, if you're in an environment that's acidic on the inside, that's polluted, that's dirty, that's full of poisons and pathogens and toxic heavy metals and pesticides and radiation on the inside, how healthy can you be? Mm-hmm. So while the specific symptom that you look at or focus on can be important, overall, it's super important. And this is all about food. Supplementation does not cleanse the body. What cleanses the body from the inside, makes it cleaner, removes that pollution and that dirtiness, is food. So can we look at that? If you understand that, then can we also look at food as being preventative? 1000%. I feel like the way I'm focused on raising my children is preventative, because we focus a lot on the type of food that we eat as a family. I'm teaching them about why foods are important, because they'll say to me, Mom, you want to focus so much on all this stuff, and why is it important? And I said, because I'm looking at you 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40, 50 years from now, when you all become maybe grandmothers, right? Not just now and tomorrow and the next week or the next month. I'm looking at your healthcare as how can we set you up for success 40, 50, 60 years from now? Because it starts with how they're birthed, what they're fed from birth, how we clean up their bodies, keep that pollution out of their bodies, teach them how to do that, and then hope to God that they will be able to do that on their own once they leave home and honor what they've learned. Maybe they'll learn the hard way. Maybe they'll try some things and, they'll come back and be like, oh my God, that really didn't work for me. But either way, that they have the tools and that they are equipped to make sure that pathogenic disease does not take over and plague their body, because they built up so much strength in their immune system, clean blood, clean their liver, clean their spleen, clear their brains, so that it doesn't hit them like it hit me and like it's hit so many of our viewers who are watching right now.
Oh, so true. So true. We do a lot of detoxing. We want people to detox their life, their lifestyle. And we often also do a lot of content around, nutrition, mental health, because exactly like you said, you can't just focus on one thing. You actually need your whole body system to support you. so after you detox and after, so you can carry on like a optimal life. And we also often focus on, before people even like trying to conceive, they should start cleaning up already.
Has
So then their kid can be clean and then growing up with that healthy lifestyle. Yeah, everything you said is just so true.
Well, with conception in particular, when a woman conceives a girl, she's got 3 generations in one body. She's got her, she's got the baby girl, and that baby girl's ovaries have the potential to birth that woman's grandchildren. So whatever that mother is eating, drinking, even before she conceives and during, impacts the future of her grandchildren directly.
Yeah. People often don't understand.
Yeah.
You had like a super helpful carousel post that talks about some foods and herbs for skin, hair, and nails.
Yeah.
What are some of your go-to tips?
My go-to tips for skin, hair, nails. Number one is aloe. So I don't just believe in applying aloe on the skin, but actually eating it.
Delicious.
Because it's a little, it can have a kick to it. It can be a little bitter, but most aloe is actually quite tasteless. And if you wash it well, it's tasteless. The power of cutting off aloe gel and putting it straight into for, people want to talk about, well, it's so helpful for skin, but actually what aloe does, if you really want to know, it's like the original collagen builder, right? It builds your body up from scratch. So it's high in silica. So people don't often hear that aloe is high in collagen. Aloe is high in silica. Silica is a building block for collagen and other parts of our body. Our skin, our nails, our hair, our teeth, our bones are really built off of silica. Silica is a really important nutrient for that. And aloe is high in silica, which is why it's so gooey and slippery. That's all of that silica in it. So silica, and then if you want to use a supplemental silica, there's living silica, organo living silica, which we love. It's another great product. And then other foods that I love are papaya. Papaya is so good for the skin. And papaya peels, once you eat the papaya, can be rubbed on the skin if you have eczema or if you have psoriasis or problem skin of any kind. Rubbing papaya onto the skin is also super helpful. Other foods, I love cucumber juice. Why cucumber juice? Because cucumber is also high in silica. It cools the body. It hydrates the body. Anytime you hydrate, you will get, what is everybody going for when they're going to makeup counters and looking for makeup? They're looking for a glowing, dewy skin, right? You can get that from these 3 foods: aloe, silica, the living silica, and cucumbers. Also, melons are really high in silica, so they provide hydration. So notice, like, it's hydration and silica, and the two often go together, because when you hydrate, often the things that are most hydrating also have silica in them.
That's so interesting. And I know like a papaya also have the tenderizing kind of like a property when you actually cook with papaya. So that's like a really interesting that, like papaya also supports like a skin. That is really cool and delicious.
Yeah.
And
it's delicious. Yeah.
It's also lowering sugar, right? Like,
yes,
papaya and melons are like a lowering sugar.
Well, all fruits have a certain sugar in them that's surrounded by phytochemicals and surrounded by vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals. And it's a sugar that we need, actually. Our human body functions on clean glucose, right? If you talk to a doctor or a med school student, and they'll tell you about the Krebs cycle, which the Krebs cycle breaks down how the body gets energy. And units of energy are measured as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So when you look at the Krebs cycle, one of the main components of the Krebs cycle, and I know like people who are listening might be like, oh, another component is like fatty acid. Yes, but the main component is glucose. The main component is glucose. What you feed into that Krebs cycle is what releases ATP energy. So what are clean sources of glucose that are good for our body? All fruits are amazing for our body to provide good, clean glucose. Potatoes that are not like you know, fried in like a deep fried oil. But clean potatoes, like which are boiled, baked, or steamed, can be eaten in a healthy diet to support your body to build up glucose in the body. So really key thing about glucose, we need glucose reserves in our brain and in our liver, most of the two places that we need them the most. And so when people say, oh, well, this is low in sugar, sugar is actually not the problem. The problem is fat. So when people are eating, people say to me, oh, I need to let go of the carbs, so I'm not going to eat that pasta. I'm like, okay, let's break that down for a second. The pasta is often a wheat flour pasta, or it could be a lentil pasta or a green pasta, right? The actual pasta is not the problem. It's what you put on top of it. And usually that's like loaded with like oil-based tomato sauce and maybe some cheese and all of that. And they're like, oh, like I'm going to cut back on the carbs, and the carbs get the bad name. But it's not the carb that's the problem. It's the fat that's the problem, because our bodies, human bodies, are not designed to break down tons of fat. This is medical medium information, so important for people to know. And I know that people don't, because out there in the social media world, influencers, podcast doctors, everybody is talking about fat being good and carbs being bad, but it's actually the opposite. Because when you're working with healing really, really sick people and you apply the high fat rule, people get sicker because they don't have a leeway, right? They don't have any leeway to make mistakes. So the high fat can be a real mistake for someone who's chronically sick. But when you switch it and you do the high carb and lower their fats, people heal and they get better. So there's a lot of this information that's kind of misunderstood, but I believe that fruit is super healing for the body and that we need it. Like, we shouldn't vilify fruit. Fruit is so important for us and so important to also help us conceive, because fruit contains seeds, and seeds are really important for building our body's fertility too.
Amazing. How can food start become a detriment to our health?
Oh, how can foods become a detriment to our health? I think when we don't understand how the human body works. When the human body is struggling and you're sick, we often end up basing our increases in energy on things that maybe including things in our diet that gives us more energy, and then we're like, oh, but that made me feel really good, not realizing, or because a lot of the knowledge out there is not, I don't think a lot of people have this right. For example, with coffee, people would live can't function without coffee. Well, I mean, like, you weren't born with a coffee deficit, right? It's not like you have a deficiency of caffeine in your body. That's not something that we're born with. So why are so many people onto coffee? That's more on the addiction side, right? So, and people are addicted. People can be addicted to coffee. They're addicted to alcohol. They can be addicted to drugs. They can be addicted to smoking. They can be addicted to sex, and so many things that can be addictive, right? That's one aspect where food can become really detrimental, and addictive substances are included, and they mess with the brain, which is why the addiction is, everybody understands that addiction is, it's kind of rooted in your brain. And I believe that a lot of people are so focused on high fat, and while fat is important, EPA, DHA, good clean omegas are important for our body, clean essential fatty acids are important for our body, but not to the degree that it's being espoused out there, right? Like high fat, your brain needs fat, your body needs fat, you need a high protein diet. Literally every doctor I've ever been to said to me, oh, you need a high protein diet and you'll feel better. And it was not true for me. And many of the people listening, because I see a lot of my clients here and people who are on my socials popping in here, it's not true for them either. When they did the high protein, and many of us have actually done the high protein thing, it did not work for us. So I think that there's a conversation and a voice to be given to a lower protein, high carb, and diet done in a healthy way, not done with junk foods or, vegan junk foods or plant-based junk foods. It has to be, you have to understand what the body really needs to thrive, and not thrive with short-term bouts of energy, but thrive with an energy that is literally like, how you used to see those advertisements on TV for the Energizer battery, and that little bunny would be like boom, 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 boom all day long. How do we get that kind of energy? How do we get the kind of energy that our children, how do they have so much energy? How are they always running around and they're always like so energized from the morning till the night? I believe that all humans should have that kind of energy. Why do we get lower energy as we get older? It's because our adrenals get depleted. Our internal body systems get weakened. We get more poison. So how do we prevent that? How do we maintain a toddler level energy, which is a healthy energy? Toddlers are typically not on caffeine. So what happens is we get older that we need to rely on, right? You know what I mean? Like I think just that we've lost this connection to our true energy. And I've been bedridden for almost a year. And because I had severe chronic fatigue and I got really, really sick after I had this poisonous spider bite that almost like I almost died from it. And I know what it feels like to not have any energy and be completely depleted to today, where I can go from like first thing in the morning, I wake up, I'm out of bed, I'm go, 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 and I feel good and I have sustained energy and I don't take that for granted. And I don't do any caffeine. I don't do any drugs. I've never had a sip of alcohol in my life. I've never done anything addictive that people out there are telling you to do to feel better. Right? I've never done those things. And so how did my energy come back? It's simply focused on clean eating and understanding how the human body works. So
true. So
yeah.
true. I can totally echo the high protein, high fat also didn't work for me. But eating actually clean and then really good carbs, that worked really well.
I love that you just shared that, Jenna. That's really cool because, I know a lot of people out there doing paleo and keto, and like paleo is still cleaner. You're still doing a lot of vegetables. You're cutting out processed food, and all those steps are good steps. It's like when you head into that keto land, that becomes for weight loss. People want to do it, but like it's really hard in the liver. Who do keto? I've spoken to them. I'm like, so did you really just not like do any carbs at all? They're like, well, you get the cravings and you really just want some carbs. And one of the things that I've understood from that is that we need carbohydrate to survive. So it is a natural craving that until you fulfill it, you're going to keep craving carbs. You can keep filling yourself up with fat, but if you don't get the right carbs, you're not going to feel good in the long run.
Yep. So you mentioned the caffeine. If we want people to get off of caffeine, what are some good swaps?
Good swaps. I love Shaga. So Shaga, I love the company Virgy. V as in Victor, I as in India, M as in Mary, ERGY. They make a great quality Shaga. And Shaga, it looks like coffee. It is kind of bitterish like coffee. It is dark brown like coffee, and you put it in hot water, and it kind of, it like looks like a hot cup of coffee. And you can put we love putting like a coconut milk in it to make it like a latte, or an almond milk in it, and adding a little honey or maple syrup, cinnamon makes a great drink, and it's a great substitute. Another substitute for coffee is roasted chicory root, and this is a herb as well. It's really great for the liver. So it has and Shaga too is like amazing immune support with Shaga. It's number one anti-cancer food on the planet. It's the number one anti-cancer food. So there's many kind of good side effects that you have from including these. So there's Shaga, roasted chicory root, and another one is roasted dandelion root, which all have kind of this roasted flavor, this nutty flavor that you can get for coffee as well. So they try to mimic that, but they're basically made of plants and herbs, and they have no caffeine in them, and they're great tools to use to overcome it. So if you're letting go of caffeine, I don't recommend going cold turkey. I believe that can be really hard, but I do recommend, say, if you're doing a cup, then go to doing 3/4 of a cup for a week or two, and then going down to doing half a cup for a week or two, then going to a 1/4 cup, while meanwhile increasing one of these other drinks so that you're balancing it out. And then eventually you will be able to let go of the coffee.
I'm literally writing down this for myself. Somebody asked which one is a good friend for chicory root?
Yeah. So I like Frontier Organic Co-op. They make a great one, and you can also purchase it from Mountain Rose Herbs.
Writing now, everybody write down. We'll go back and watch this. I know we're a little bit over. Do you still have a few more minutes?
Sure. Yeah.
I have a few more questions I want to ask.
Absolutely.
Being so awesome. You had a great series of posts also about heavy metals.
Yeah.
So how do we come in contact with heavy metal? Like, what can we do to support our body to against them?
Wow, that's a great question. So we come into contact with toxic heavy metals in many places. And part of it is when I talked about, toxic heavy metals dropping out of the sky. There's that. There's a word for it that I don't want to say on social media because you always get tagged for it or flagged for it. So it's called a sea trail. I'll just leave it at that, right? It drops out of the sky, so it's in the air. Fluoride is always attached to aluminium or aluminum, as the Americans say, and fluoride is in most municipal water supply. So if you're not filtering out your water, you could be drinking aluminium all the time, and that's a toxic heavy metal as well. It's very, very toxic to the human body. Other places, so all pesticides contain some form of heavy metal in them, and so you can get exposed that way. Like, for example, if you go to the doctor and you have to do an MRI, they will put a contrast into you often, and that contrast contains gadolinium. So, you can be exposed in many, many ways to toxic heavy metals, and they're kind of everywhere. And I say to people, well, because we're walking around in a polluted environment, you can't worry about it all the time. What you can do is use the tools that we have today. And a lot of these tools are from medical medium, have these tools to actually cleanse your body from these poisons. So one of the top ways to remove toxic heavy metals from your body is to do the heavy metal detox ingredients. I like to call them the Fabulous Five. So it's spirulina, it's barley grass juice powder, wild blueberries, not the conventional organic blueberries even. They're kind of green when you cut them on the inside. Wild blueberries, when you cut them on the inside, are deep purple. So they're super power food for removing toxic heavy metals from the body. Cilantro, and then the seaweed dulse. Those are the Fabulous Five. And if you get 3 of those 5 in your body every day, that's like a good baseline to consider. But if you want to do the whole thing, look up, as people are popping into the comments, they're saying,
I saw that.
Yes, heavy metal detox smoothie. And it works, Jenna. I've had kids who are nonverbal be able to have their do heavy metal detox for a few months, start to speak again. I've had kids with autism be able to reverse autism, be able to be normal again, because those are rooted in toxic heavy metals in the brain. I've had people who've had tons of anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, which can also be a symptom of toxic heavy metals. And so you do the smoothie regularly and those symptoms start to go away. Whereas other tools that people say you could try this herb or this tea or what have you, unless you get to the root cause, which is getting those metals out of the body, you won't see those dramatic shifts in symptoms until you do that. And then there's, people will say, okay, well, go to a functional doctor and get chelation. But chelation is tough because it is hard on the body. If you're really sick, it's hard to get that kind of chelation. Heavy metal detox smoothie is a gentle way. It works for children, babies, adults, pregnant women. Everyone can do it. So it's a really great tool. If you haven't tuned into that yet, it's like a game changer.
I feel like that's also like a pretty low entry point, and it's delicious so people can actually follow through. Because if you ask people to do something that's like really hard on their body, would take a lot of time, and then doesn't taste good, then nobody's going to do it, or they can't sustain it.
Exactly. I say this to people all the time because, when people have been sick for a long time, they just want to do all of the things to get better. And naturally, you just want to get better as quickly as possible. But I say to everyone, choose steps that you can do sustainably, that you can do that are going to last you. So if you're choosing to, say, bring in celery juice or bring in the heavy metal detox smoothie, do it in a way that you can do it for the next 6 months or year. And if it's sustainable and you do it in that way, you'll have better results. So long-term sustainability consistency is the key to developing new habits that will move your health and move the needle on you feeling better.
Absolutely. So to maintain your health, like what are some staples in your household?
Staples in my household are, number one is celery juice. We do celery juice as a family, the 5 of us, every single morning. So celery juice is every day. I do 32 ounces. My family does 16 each. So we're all on that train. I think that's a really key one that we, even if we miss our smoothie or miss anything else, we try not to miss our celery juice. The other thing is we eat a lot of fruit. So there's fruit everywhere in my house, and we have watermelons and mangoes and papayas and all these beautiful fruits. So fruit is absolutely key. And I would say like another really key staple in our home is leafy greens. I'm on my kids the whole time. Like leafy greens, you got to eat the greens. So they use them in different forms. They can have it in a juice or in a smoothie, or they love butter leaf. So they'll have butter leaf with all of their meals. Any way that we can get more greens into our kids. And yeah, we do a lot of potatoes. So between those are our probably top favorite foods that we're eating most of the time.
Nice. If you have all the time in the world, what is your go-to dinner that you're gonna make?
All the time in the world, I would make biryani. I would make my grandmother's biryani recipe.
Oh my God, delicious.
We make it
Okay.
vegetarian. So on my blog, I actually have 3 versions of biryani. I have like a rice version, a millet version, and a grain-free cauliflower rice version. So you can make it in all those ways depending on where you are in your healing. So I have used all of those different ways because I love the taste of the masala and the spices. And if I had all the time in the world, that's my favorite meal.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look up your recipe. I love this book, and I love biryani. Like I love
Oh, yeah. It's on my favorite.
You offer one-on-one counseling service. What does a session with you look like? Looks like
And I'm doing laser coaching in a group. So I do the one-on-one as well. But that's more reserved for really complex cases. How I do that is the first half is a reading, understanding what's going on, understanding how someone's struggling. So sorry, my Wi-Fi dropped, so I'm here.
it's all good. It's all good. I figured. We were talking about your one-on-one counseling service.
Yeah. So the first half of what I do is I do a reading with people and I try to see what their root causes are. And then second half is giving them tools and working with them on where people really struggle. You know, today I had a woman I was talking to and she was really struggling with food. She goes, I have to take care of my husband, my mother, my sick son. And it's really hard for me to find time for me to like take care of my health. So I gave her
Looks like I have a little lag. Okay, here she is.
that she wouldn't have to spend too much time cooking. So, you know, we meet people where they are, right? There are some people who love to cook and they can handle a lot of the recipes. There's some people who don't like to cook. There's some people who really struggle in the kitchen, right? So I have to meet people where they are and help them as a coach. Like I'm helping them make changes in their lives that are going to set them up for success. So I never want somebody feeling like a failure or that they can't do it when they walk away from a session. I want them to feel empowered, excited, motivated, that the changes in the plan that we have is going to work for them and that they're excited to do it. So it's a lot about setting it up that way for them.
Love it. You have a bunch of workshop that's coming up. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we have we actually just did a webinar last weekend for our practitioners, but we also have more classes coming, and we do a lot of online classes. So if you look at our website, we have most topics covered. We have brain health, liver health covered. We have a lot of like, if you're dealing with autoimmune conditions, we have that covered. Root causes of symptoms is a big popular favorite class. Women's health is a big popular favorite class. So those classes are available. Another popular one is understanding GMOs, because I think a lot of people don't understand what genetically modified foods are and how they can impact their body, how they're made. So it's a class teaching and breaking down these like simple, like complex topics into simple, understandable terms for the layperson. So that's what a lot of our workshops, and new classes are being added all the time. So I hope you guys will check that out. And our biggest live offering is our membership. So we have a membership for those who are chronically sick and are looking to heal and need support, because often, like this woman I'm speaking to today, doesn't have that support in her own home. So getting that support in our online space where we have tons of people coming in and sharing, asking questions about their health, asking for support, asking for practitioner help. We have 25 practitioners in there who are trained to respond to people's questions. So I do a teaching call every month. I do a Q&A call. I make sure that I answer people's questions. Look, the membership is designed to help take care of people. And our goal, well, we do our best to get to take care of every single person who's in there, right? If you have a need, if you're struggling, that's what we want to show up for. And so the chronically sick often don't have a place to go. They don't have a voice. And we want to give them that space. And that's what the membership is all about.
Oh, I love this. It's interesting you mentioned that the social support. We ran clinical trials on the helping people detox, and then we also realized actually through our clinical trials that having the support is hugely important to kind of get people on the road for success.
Yeah. I mean, I think nothing in life can be achieved without support. How many of us can do anything solo for very long? We are communal creatures. We're made to cohabit with other people. We do well when we have supportive people around us. And so when you're struggling, especially, is a time when you need the most support, when you're most vulnerable, in your darkest places, when you don't know how you're going to get better. You can't see that light to know that, or even to carry even a little flame of hope. You need people who can do that for you. And that support then becomes the thing you hold on to the most as you navigate out of the darkest places in your life. So I'm a huge proponent of support whenever in any part of your journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I know like we went way over, but I felt like we can just like keep going. This is like such an engaging conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for creating the space for these wonderful conversations. I've listened to so many more of your interviews with other folks, and I'm always learning something new. And I think it's been really beautiful to see what you're creating as well. So thank you for the space.
Yeah, we're gonna be sharing your content, and then also everyone like be sure to look at Muneeza's website and then join the membership. I think this is like huge.
Thank you so much, Jenna.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Great to see you. All right, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.